All right, chapter 9 of The White Stallions of Lipizza, called So Much to Learn. When he arrived home, there was no need to explain his tardiness. The kitchen was empty. He started for the stairs when he noticed his old cot from the attic standing against the wall, and piled on top of it, as if they didn't amount to very much, were all of the pictures from his mirror. He took the stairs 2 at a time and tore into his bedroom. It wasn't his anymore. Kneeling beside his bed was a curly-haired boy saying Hans's childhood prayer with a French accent. Now I lay me down to sleep. Please, dear God, your child to keep. The boy stopped in the middle, looking up in curiosity. Hovering over and around him were Hans's sister, Anna, and his parents. Anna turned quickly towards Hans, and suddenly, with tears and laughter, she was almost suffocating him in a big hug and explaining at the same time how sorry she was to put him out of his room. It will only be for 2 years, she comforted, until Henry gets out of the army. 2 years? Hans echoed without saying it out loud. So he's thinking that. Anna went back to the kneeling child, listening as the prayers went on and on with all the God blesses at the end. Maman and Pierre and Grandpère and Grandmère and Uncle Hans and da-da-da. Hans tiptoed downstairs and out onto the little stable that was part of the house. It was bad enough to have to give up his room, but to a foreign boy made it seem worse. A sob broke in his throat as Rosie, with a whinny of gladness, heaved herself up to greet him. To keep from thinking, he mucked out her stall fiercely, and he gave her an extra measure of grain. Then, hunching down in his back against the wall, his legs stretched out in the soft litter, he fell asleep to the rhythm of her chewing. Anna found him there and shook him awake. It won't be forevermore, Hans. Meanwhile, you and Jacques can be like brothers. He can help do some of your chores, and I will drive Rosie whenever you want a holiday. Being an uncle at 12 to a shoulder-high boy made Hans feel suddenly old and trapped. Jacques clung to him as if he were his father, asking him to play catch, to help him with his schoolwork. Hans liked the boy, but he needed more time to think of his own future. Now the only bright spot in his life was in the evening, at the library, but it was 3 days before the household settled down and he could return there. Fraulein greeted him as if he had been gone for weeks. Triumphantly, she pointed to 2 big, handsome books she had been saving. Hans noted happily that they were as full of markers as a porcupine is full of quills. Finish your essay first, then, Fraulein smiled, come for your dessert. Is she going to give him food? No, she's saying that these books he wants to read are like dessert that he can have after he does the work that he has to do. Hans was boiling with pent-up energy. He sharpened his pencil to a stiletto point. Then, writing as fast as it would go, he told the story of Xenophane's exciting horse care on the long ride from the inland of Asia Minor to the shores of the Black Sea. By the time he had finished, he felt as if he were one of the 10,000 soldiers on that grueling march. With the essay completed and fastened together with his drawing as a cover, Hans hurried down to get the promised books. Fraulein handed them over as if she envied Hans. You can see they are very, very old, she said, wiping the yellow-brown dust from his fingers. The leather is crumbling and the bindings are loose, but these authors were the founders of the training methods used today. One book is in French, and here is a dictionary to help. Carefully, Hans made the tray of his arms and carried the books back to his table. They were so big he had to stand up to read them and turn the pages. The man sitting next to him obligingly moved over one seat to make room. All at once, Hans felt like a digger of history. It was as if he had awakened these men from their slumbers to get up and teach him. He was fascinated by de Pluvinel, horsemaster to King Louis XIII. The great teacher seemed to be saying, Hans, listen and take courage. At 17, I was already a rider in above-the-ground maneuvers. At 20, I was appointed horsemaster to the boy king of France. So here he is, running home, all excited to find no one in the kitchen. All of his stuff sitting in the living room, basically. And here he is, wore out after cleaning up Rosie's stall.
Why did the policeman go in the living room?
Oh, I don't know. De Pluvinel proved as exciting as Xenophon. There were wondrous pictures in the book. One of de Pluvinel showing the king how a horse could be trained in aerial movements by working between 2 pillars. The pillars were exactly like the ones at the riding school. Hans ran to show Fraulein. Look, he exclaimed, this man invented the pillars. Do you remember them in the riding hall? Fraulein nodded. How could I forget, with the Austrian flag fastened to each one and living white statue between them. And a living white statue between them. What's the white statue between the pillars?
The horses.
The horse, yeah. Fraulein, let's see. It was half an hour before closing time, but Hans had to dip into the second big book. It was in the original French by Guérinière, written in 1733, with the approbation and privilege of the king. Here at last Hans learned the names of the aerial movements and what they meant. No wonder they were French words. With Fraulein Morgan to help him translate, he discovered that Rosie's horse had done the courbet, with Guérinière described as a leap in quick cadence on the haunches. Hans thought back to the Sunday performance. The first aerial movement he had seen must have been the capriole. With painstaking slowness, he translated, "In the capriole, when the horse is in the air, he kicks out with as much force as if he wants to separate himself from himself." The second horse he now knew had done the piaffe. The caption under the picture explained, "When a horse trots on the spot between the pillars, and when he folds his arms high and gracefully, this is called the piaffe." Hans chortled at thinking of forelegs as arms. The third horse must have done the levade. Hans figured for certainly he had crouched on his haunches and reared up to a 45-degree angle. He traced all four of the pictures to get them exactly right, and he labeled them according to Guérinière. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing any of these French words correctly because I do not know any French, but I'm trying. Night after night, Hans read everything Fraulein could find about the Lipizzaers. His answers came thicker and faster. He learned that the Lipizzaers took their name from the title of the town Lipizza, near the Adriatic Sea, where originally they were foaled. That the name persisted, even though their foaling place was now at Piber in the province of Styria. He learned that it was a good omen when a brown Lipizzaner was foaled. In years when there were none, disasters fell, wars, fires, and pestilence. Oh, so it's good luck to have a brown one, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
He learned all manner of unrelated but exciting things. That Lipizzaers grew up much more slowly than other horses and lived longer. That there were 6 founding sires of all present-day Lipizzaers. That the riders in the Sunday ballet doffed their hats to the picture of Archduke Charles VI, who founded the school. Blushing, Hans remembered, leaping to his feet to return the salute, as if it had been meant for him. Only one thing he found hard to believe. That Lipizzan colts are born dark, some coal black, and that they gradually lighten in color until they become snow-white stallions like he'd seen at the riding school. This he must see for himself. He still had the 2-shilling piece his father had given him. It would help him get to the Piber, but how could he get away? So he's going to go see where they're foaled. That means where they're born. One day when the chestnut trees were bursting with buds and the grass was turning a soft green, Hans began to think how nice it would be at the Piber. Already some of the colts would be born, and in his mind's eye he saw them skittering out of the barns, all knobby-kneed and wobbly. But were they really dark as night? And were they all dark, or did some have white blazes on their foreheads and maybe white socks or stockings? And in their play, did the colts really dance and leap and take on the very poses of the horse ballet, or was it a halfway thing, like parakeets who were supposed to talk but only their owners could understand them? If Anna meant what she had said about driving Rosie for him, then some Sunday he would go. If he was going to meddle with horses, he could not be ignorant of their colthood, but he must go now, before the foals grew up. When he told Anna his plans, she fell in at once with the idea. Life for her had been dull. Washing clothes, helping with the baking, working on needlepoint bags to earn money. Driving Rosie would be fun. She would see the great city again and mingle with people and hear laughter. Frau Haupt clamped her lips at the idea. How will it look, she asked, a pretty young lady, a mother, driving a bakery cart? Herr Haupt had quite a different concern. Ach, Hans, he said, why must you know so much? Why walk into a wall of heartbreak? But in the end it was Mamma who sensed Hans's need. The boy looks pale. He should have a change, she said. It will do him good, Papa. Let him go. Even a cat can look at a queen. And so it was arranged. Hans would take the train to the city of Graz, and there he would stay overnight with Tante Lena and Uncle Otto, and the next morning he could go on foot to Piber. That's a big trip for a young boy, isn't it?